For a person that's had more 0-point games in their career than 20-point games, what are we talking about here? I praised him for his accomplishments for his career, but like I said, I can name 200 people better at basketball than him. Tell me when I lied. You the 35th pick for a reason. We're talking about basketball and skill set here. That's you going out there and scoring 0 points 46 times in your career, only scoring 20 points 44 times. That's what you have done and not done.
Wake up to reality.
Thoughts on Kenyon Martin naming 50 power forwards better than you? I didn't actually hear all the names. I just read some of them because I don't really watch what people say. Shout out to all 50 of those guys on having a hell of an NBA career and doing what they did and putting their name in the bucket. I respect all of them. It's all love. Good for them. You know, other people get a little emotional. I ain't gonna shoot them down. I can make people important, and that's a good skill.
What if a former #1 draft pick, a guy known for his toughness and scary athleticism, said a 4-time NBA champion was so overrated that 200 other players were better than him? Well, that's exactly what Kenyon Martin did, and he aimed it right at Draymond Green. The claim was so wild, so disrespectful, it forced a brutal response from Draymond himself, sparking one of the most personal player feuds we've seen in a long time. This isn't just trash talk. It's a clash of basketball eras, a battle of resumes, and a debate over what it really means to be a great player. Today, we're settling it. We're going to look at both of their careers to see if Martin's shocking claim is just bitter noise or if he actually has a point. This whole thing blew up on Gilbert Arenas' podcast, Gils Arena. The crew was talking about the NBA's all-time enforcers, and Kenyon Martin, who's never been shy with his opinions, left Draymond Green completely off his list. But he didn't stop there. He went on to call Draymond a fake tough guy, and that's when things got personal. Martin's argument was that Draymond's tough guy act is all for show. He claimed Green only gets tough with players who won't do anything back, and that in Martin's era, that kind of behavior would have gotten a swift, physical reality check. That first jab was sharp, but it was a follow-up comment that really lit the fuse. In a later appearance, Martin declared, with a straight face, that he could name 200 players who are fundamentally better at basketball than Draymond Green. This wasn't just a critique, it was a total dismissal of Green's entire career. Martin's point was simple. If you take away the championships and the Warriors system, Draymond Green, as an individual player, is just limited. To prove his point, he went on Instagram Live and started rattling off names. Not just superstars, but rugged role players from his era like Bo Outlaw and Popeye Jones, arguing their fundamental skills were better than Green's. The message was loud and clear. Martin thinks Draymond is a system player who gets by on antics, not talent. Draymond Green, a master of the media himself, was not about to let that slide. On his own podcast, The Draymond Green Show, he fired back with a response that was calculated, cutting, and absolutely brutal. He started by saying he was disappointed, pointing out that he and Martin are both from Saginaw, Michigan, and that he grew up respecting K-Mart. But that's where the niceties ended. Draymond immediately flipped the script, painting Martin not as a respected vet, but as an underachiever. He hammered this point by comparing their careers. Green pointed out that Martin, a #1 overall pick, made just one All-Star team. In contrast, Green, the 35th pick in his draft, is a 4-time All-Star. Then he went for the defensive awards. Draymond, a former Defensive Player of the Year with 8 All-Defensive Team selections, pointed out that Martin, for all his talk about toughness, has 0 All-Defensive selections in his career. But the final, most devastating blow was the one Martin couldn't argue with: championships. Green, with his 4 rings, highlighted that Martin made it to the NBA Finals twice with the New Jersey Nets, but lost both times, branding him a player who couldn't win when it mattered most. Draymond's response was a masterclass in flipping the narrative, using one word, underachieved, to try and invalidate Martin's entire career. So, who's actually right here? To figure that out, we have to get past the insults and just look at the facts. This whole debate really comes down to 3 things: their awards and career success, a head-to-head statistical comparison, and the context of the years they played in. First off, let's be real. The 200 players claim is obvious exaggeration. It's a hot take designed to make a point that Martin thinks Draymond's value is tied to his situation. The difference is huge. Sure, championships are a team award, but Draymond was the defensive anchor and emotional leader of a dynasty. His DPOY award and nearly a decade of all defensive selections prove his individual dominance on that side of the ball. Martin's resume, while solid for a 15-year career, just doesn't compare. For a number one pick to finish with only one All-Star appearance and no other major awards is, in the world of the NBA, what many would consider not living up to your potential. Part B, the numbers, statistical deep dive. At first glance, their per-game stats seem somewhat similar in a few areas. Kenyon Martin, 12.3 points, 6.8 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 1.2 steals, and 1.1 blocks per game over his career. Draymond Green, 8.7 points, 6.9 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.0 blocks per game, and he's still playing. Martin was clearly the better scorer, which his higher points per game average shows. But Draymond's assist numbers are what really set them apart. Averaging nearly 6 assists as a power forward is an elite skill and shows his role as a playmaker and offensive hub, something Martin was never asked to be. Green also has a clear advantage in playoff performance across almost every major category, including total points, rebounds, and assists. The numbers back up what the awards suggest. Draymond's impact on winning is just on another level. Even their career earnings tell a story. Draymond Green has earned over $227 million so far, a number that shows his value in today's NBA. Kenyon Martin earned a still impressive $112 million over 15 seasons. This is where Martin's argument has some weight, and it's worth considering. K-Mart played in a more physical, bruising era. The early 2000s NBA had hand-checking, hard fouls in the paint, and a much slower pace. Martin was an explosive athlete and a physical force, known for being an intimidator. He argues that Draymond's game, a non-dominant scorer who thrives on spacing and playmaking, just wouldn't have worked back then. There's some truth to the idea that their roles were products of their time. Martin was a traditional power forward, a rim runner and post player. Draymond is the definition of a modern point forward, a versatile defender who can guard every position and run the offense. But the tough guy debate is where it gets really interesting. Martin sees toughness as physical, being willing to fight and enforce your will. Draymond's toughness is more mental and psychological. He gets under opponents' skin, baits them into technicals, and disrupts the game. Of course, this has also led to him crossing the line multiple times, from the kick to Steven Adams' groin to the chokehold on Rudy Gobert and the strike on Jusuf Nurkic. While Martin sees this as fake toughness, you could also argue that Draymond's volatility is a weapon, even if it's a chaotic one. Martin played hard, but Draymond plays on the absolute edge of the rules, a different kind of disruption for a different era. So, after looking at everything, where do we land? Is Kenyon Martin right? No. The claim that 200 players are better than Draymond Green is objectively false and disrespectful to one of the most unique and successful players of his generation. While Martin was a very good, athletic, and tough player on 2 finals teams, his career just doesn't stack up against Draymond Green's. Draymond's resume, full of championships, individual defensive awards, and his role as the engine of a historic dynasty puts him in a higher tier of all-time NBA players. The stats, both basic and advanced, overwhelmingly show Green as the more impactful player when it comes to winning. However, buried under all that exaggeration, Martin's argument does touch on a fascinating debate about how we value players from different eras. He represents the old-school thinking that values post-scoring and physical intimidation. Draymond represents the new school, where versatility, basketball IQ, and being a connector are valued most. In the end, Draymond Green's takedown of Martin's career was harsh, but it was also rooted in undeniable facts. He used Martin's own career shortcomings, the single All-Star game, no defensive awards, and no championships, to tear down his argument. It was a clear win for Draymond in the court of public opinion, because in the NBA, rings and awards will always speak louder than a podcast hot take. But that's just my breakdown of this whole feud. The great thing about debates like this is that everyone sees the game differently. So now I want to hear from you. Who do you think is right? Do you value Kenyon Martin's old-school physicality or Draymond Green's modern, versatile game? And is the era argument a fair point for Martin, or is it just an excuse? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I want to know whose side you're on. And if you enjoyed this, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns of the biggest debates in the NBA. Thanks for watching.